Hey guys, it's the old millennial here, and today we're going to talk about voter ID and why I think we should have it, and why I definitely don't think it's discriminatory. Now, look, I understand that it had its place. You know, back in the days of Jim Crow, post-Civil War, where they were actively trying to suppress the vote of minorities, African Americans especially, you know, it made a lot of sense to have protections put in place, culminated by the 1965 Voting Rights Act, where basically the government prevented discrimination on the basis of race or language. But I think that we're living in a different time today, and I think that the concept of having an ID is so common today that it's hard for me to justify calling it discriminatory, honestly. So I did a lot of research to see kind of what percentage of people actually don't have a voter ID, and unfortunately, they were kind of all over the place. A lot of it, frankly, fell along ideological lines. And so it was tough to kind of, hammer down where we actually are with that as a real number. So I took the most kind of anti my position, which was from the ACLU, that said 11% of total voters and up to 25% of African Americans don't have any type of federal ID or state-issued ID in order to vote. That to me, frankly, was a bit surprising. And when I looked at the data, it is from 2006, so we're talking about something that's 11 years old. So who knows what has happened to those numbers? But I am a little bit, suspicious of those numbers, given the other stuff that I have seen. And the reason that I'm suspicious is because of how many other things you need to have an ID just to be able to do. And these are common things that we do on a day-to-day basis. For example, you need an ID to drive, you need an ID to fly somewhere, you need an ID to buy cigarettes, you need an ID to buy alcohol, you need an ID to get married, and in most cases, unless you have a prepaid phone, you need an ID to get a cell phone contract. And these are things that are not uncommon, even to even people who are poor. Most folks have done one of those things. So for me to believe that 11% of the population has never driven, flown, had a cigarette, drank, gotten married, or have a cell phone is a little tough to swallow. And you compare this to the danger. I mean, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to elect the leaders of the free world. This is not something as trivial as buying liquor or buying a smoke. I mean, we're voting for the President of the United States. We're voting for our Congress. We're voting for our senators. We should make sure that the people who are voting are who they say they are and that they're citizens. I mean, for example, if we take my home state of California, which is a little bit on the left of things, and I went through the application process, I saw, without completing it, the requirements of what needed to be done to register to vote. They asked for your driver's license and your social security number, but if you didn't have that, you could have a bank statement, a utility, a check with your name on it, a government check with your name on it, or any government paper that had your name on it with your address. I mean, now obviously you had to say that, yes, I'm a citizen and I'm able to vote, but man, that's on the honor system. That's a little scary. I mean, basically all that proves is that A, you say you're a citizen, and if you're not, that just means all you have to do is lie. And then B, you have to prove that you actually live somewhere in California, which, I mean, anyone who lives in California has a utility statement or has a bank statement or has any one of those other things. And so to me, that just doesn't seem like a high enough bar to prove that I am a citizen and capable of voting for my leaders. That's like one of the most sacred responsibilities and privileges that we have as American citizens. And I get the concern of wanting to be inclusive and wanting to make sure that everyone who has the right gets it, but it's not like we're the only country who's ever thought of this idea of requiring an ID. In fact, the following countries, many of which are countries that often, the left portrays as models of what we should be aspiring to socially, require just that. Now, not all of these countries at the time of voting require photo ID, Many of them do, but here's just a list. Canada, Germany, Netherlands, Switzerland, Spain, France, Malta, and Mexico. And one of the cool things I found out about Switzerland is their form of ID is actually a sword or bayonet, which proves that you served in the military, and that is essentially your ID, or you can also present your ID. Cool little side note there. So, it's not like we would be the only countries in the world doing this, and no one's calling these people discriminatory and bigoted. And I think it's something that we need to take really seriously, especially with all of the recent events around hacking. I mean, a lot of the big arguments is, oh, well, we want to make sure that non-citizens don't vote. I mean, sure, that is important. I mean, I don't want that either. But we've had all of this hoopla about Russian hacking recently with this last election, and that the Russians were able, to hack into certain things. And, the folks on the left especially have gone crazy about this and wanting to make sure that it doesn't happen again and calling into question the legitimacy of the president. Well, that's fine and good, but if you are looking to harden our voting system in such a way that we prevent hacking, or at the very least make it very, very difficult, but are not for requiring voter ID, then you're being silly, because that would be like having a super high-tech security system installed in your house, but leaving the front door open every night, because why do I need to have a Russian hacker hack into some voting system that's been hardened when I can register to vote with my utility bill? I mean, it's just very easy. Putin, pays a few thousand people however much money in key districts in key states, and he can get the election result that he wants without even having to open a computer up. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, I mean, it's something I think we really need to take seriously. And, I welcome your comments. I welcome to see, what you guys think. Do you agree, disagree? If you like what you've seen here, please subscribe to the video. And until next time, talk to you soon.